Heroes of the Storm esports seems to be rising like a phoenix from the ashes at the moment.
It is.
First up is a whole new Heroes tournament that was announced yesterday. HeroesHearth has teamed up with Tempostorm and is putting on the Toasty and Gladman Heroes Invitational, which, according to the Tempostorm press release, is, quote, considered a pilot with potential to develop into a tournament series depending on the event's success. They went on to say that the tournament will span 2 days and follow a single elimination format. The prize pool starts at $5,000. They're also going to have additional prizing possible through crowdfunding and or additional sponsors. So they're still in the process of finalizing the 8 invited teams, so they're going to be announcing them soon as they have them locked in. But this is great news.
That is a darn good prize pool for one weekend.
Yeah, it is, and it could get bigger. And I would assume with the hustle of organizations like HeroesHearth and Tempostorm that some more sponsors are going to be found, or that if and when they launch a crowdfunding for the tournament, that is going to do all right.
I think so. This is the kind of marathon you can get behind because it's one weekend, and you're going to say, okay, my weekend, this is yours. Not 5 next weekends. Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, they say it's a pilot, right? So this testing the waters, essentially. So if this is successful, we're going to see more of it. And if that's not enough, if you're like, okay, one weekend, cool, I know what to watch, when to watch it, where to go, I would like something that's a little longer form, more regular. Dude, we've been talking about Division S for, I think this is week 4 now in a row that we've mentioned Division S. They've been... They announced it. Now they've raised a bunch of money. Now multiple teams have been unveiled, and we know when or how often it's going to be happening. The league stage is going to be played in a double round robin format with 1 match a week for 14 weeks. They're going to have 14 weeks of league play with 1 match a week, and the top 6 teams are going to qualify for a playoff tournament. This sounds so much more watchable than what we had with HGC.
You can build a story over the course of the week. You can say why this game this weekend is going to be important and you should check it out. You can actually get knowledge about the 2 teams, what they like to do, who's it going to be. The casters can supply us with that storyline as well because they don't have to study 4 different games that they're casting on a single day to come back the next day and do the same and do it again Sunday the next day. I'm a really big fan of digestible esports.
Yeah. But by the way, they hit their new goal of 15,000 on the crowdfunding. I mean, their original goal was set for 10K. They hit that very fast. I think last week they were sitting at 13 and change. So now they've hit their 15,000 goal, and that it's according to them, it's to secure a larger prize pool for the players. So that's cool. And while that is small compared to what we were used to with HGC. Yeah, 14 weeks is a long time, but again, it's only 1 match a week. This isn't marathon sessions.
When you break this down into what the final winning prize will look at, it's about $3,000. And when you add 14 weeks to that, clearly we're not going full-time HGC. These pros will ideally not be making a full living, unless it's a rough living, off of this prize pool. But the level of play wouldn't be there anyway. A lot of them are streaming now, other games even. They have other income sources that they're building. This is a decent call to action for these pros to gather together, to commit the time, and give us a good entertainment show.
Yeah. And to me, this is the kind of thing that sounds healthy and sustainable. And you're right. I keep coming back to the 1 match a week over the course of 14 weeks. You mentioned the storyline. It's to me, that's so important. It's so critical to having the audience buy in to the competition.
It sounds so ridiculous with how we've come to know esports. Survival guides, seeing patch survival guides, weekend survival guides. The reason those exist is because there's too much to digest and people are trying to make sense of it. When you have one game coming this weekend, you can promote replays of that team, what maps they like to play on, why it's interesting that they pick that map, what heroes they like, who on the team plays what heroes, and who you should be watching out for if you're a huge fan of Zeratul.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? This sounds like when we were watching GSL back in the StarCast days. It was more than one match a week, but it was one group at a time per night, and it was just very easy and digestible to understand why it was important that one player was fighting another, and why they picked the maps that they pick, and why they play the strategies that they play.
And I could designate the brain-spaced understanding matches I wasn't interested in. So let's say no team runs Zul'jin, and all I want to see is Zul'jin play. But I checked the Zul'jin games. I saw them. Awesome. Then I checked the scoreboard. That makes mental sense. Where'd they go? Losers bracket? Sure. I am now invested in the full tournament rather than who's playing what, who, why. They got points. Oh, who has what points? Who's in the lead? Does that mean anything?
Again, I just want to reiterate that this is good and exciting. That in the same week we now know that multiple pros from Heroes of the Storm that we know and love are heading to Division S, and that HeroesHearth and Tempostorm have gotten together to make a new tournament. This is what we're talking about. When the announcement came down that HGC was over, we're just like, this obviously leaves room for anything, because now there's no more professional Heroes back or Blizzard back tournament. But we were sitting here wondering, where do we go from here? What is the community going to do? Clearly, someone's going to step up and at least attempt a community tournament, and here we have multiple community tournaments announced in the same week.
And we do have quite a few player names, but there is also an opening for you to sign up. If you're interested out there and you want to compete and qualify for this event, you can. Yeah. How interesting is that?
It very, and if we're talking Division S specifically, which we are, because HeroesHearth and Tempostorm is going to be an invitational, but that's where I come back again to the sustainability, knowing that it's a once a week thing over the course of 14 weeks. This is something that you can plan ahead for, that you can probably fit into your schedule, providing, of course, that you also fit in enough practice into your schedule so that you keep your edge honed so that you can actually make it to the next round. But this is the kind of thing that excites me a lot. And we haven't actually talked about the players that we found out are on certain teams. Well, let's get into it right now. There are 2 notable European teams in Division S and 2 notable NA teams. This came via Tim Rizzo, writing over on Invin Global. Did not go look all this up on my own, so thank you to Tim Rizzo. But European teams, let's just start with the All-Star team, the team to watch, Kyle, which the team name is now Washed Up. And it has 2 players from Fnatic, 2 players from Team Liquid, and JPL from Dignitas.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah, Mene, SMX, Hasawabs, Eternal, JPL are all on a team together.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
The all-star team.
Yes. Yeah. And then the former Leftovers roster, with the exception of Diabe, is all playing together. The 5th player hasn't been confirmed anywhere I can find it, but Mobsio, Linked, Black Kidney, I've always had trouble pronouncing that one, and Potty Boss are all playing together in one of the European teams. And then over on NA, we have pretty much all of Team Freedom playing together. The big difference here is Hosty, who was recently on Simplicity, and also Cure, who is an older Team Freedom player. He left Freedom back in 2017, was recently on Endemic, but now he's joining some of his old roster mates for this new Division S team. And then we have also a bunch of LFM esports players all together on the same NA team.
It's fascinating to think what the barrier to entry was when we had HGC Pro Play as a full-time sort of stipend job, right? Like, these guys were committed full-time, locked in for a year, and things got stale. There's very little infusion of new blood throughout a whole year when you have a system like this. Now, some guy has a slow Christmas and becomes the best Junkrat in the world. And he signs up for one of these, gets on a team. Bam, Junkrat changes overnight. All our talents we thought were great are wrong. That is so much more interesting, so much more possibility for entertainment in a system like this. Speaking positively, of course.
Right.
In this new world.
Obviously, more stability is better for the players.
Because the pro play would be elevated because it can be that level of refinement. We won't see that anymore.
Right. At least not for a while. Unless, if this takes off, one of these tournaments takes off, becomes a more regular event with more funding, It's certainly a possibility, even though it does seem like a long shot. But I'm just, this seems so much more easily digestible to me, easier to get more people into it, again, from the kind of storyline aspect that we've talked about. I'm excited to watch this.
And there's a great analogy that I heard in my chat this week is it's like marathon running. Tons of people sign up for marathons, and whether or not they're good at it, they just love to try to play to see if they can participate. But if you got to that gate line and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, professionals only," at every single one, not as many people would be into it, I assure you. It's not that thrilling watching too many people run.
Yeah. Yeah. And Cameron brings up a good point. This means that they're also going to be on the live patch, which
That is helpful.
It was always infuriating to me that every time I tuned into esports, I'm like, well, none of this means anything to me. Because of
a weird forced world, right? Like there can be a situation where Blizzard maybe doesn't take notice, has something they really want to push out in the middle of a tournament. The server is down, perhaps, because the tournament server isn't being used for it. But I think at home, we would all appreciate to see Diablo doing what we know he's doing at home right now. It's such a disconnect and such a auto disinterest for me.
I'm hoping for both. I want to see things that I don't expect, like your anecdote about maybe there's just an amazing junker out there that kicks the door down, shows us we're all doing it wrong. I'd love to see that kind of thing, but I would also like to see some through lines drawn between what I'm watching happening in these tournaments and what I'm seeing in my games at home. You kind of find that middle ground. So I mean, there's obviously still so many questions, right? Like, we spent the first half of the show talking about our hopes and desires for the direction the Heroes team could take balance in the wake of a world with no Blizzard-backed Heroes of the Storm esports. What does that mean with community esports? What if this does take off? I mean, in my head, I feel if this really does find an audience and become sustainable, I think, of course, we're going to see some sort of balance changes supported by the developer team. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
So it's just an exciting time. It's strange to me. Obviously you and I are in what's the word I'm looking for? Unusual position, an uncommon position in that we do the show. We have a community built around it. A lot of folks that we talk to on a daily basis that still live and breathe Heroes of the Storm. Our personal experience, seeing as we do not cover esports typically on the show, hasn't really changed. This show has been mostly about playing the game, not watching it, and that's what we're doing. Hasn't really changed inside the game. We're still getting regular updates. Everything's fine. At least seems the same, more or less. And yet with these changes with HGC ending and everything, and looking at these community tournaments popping up, it feels like early wings of liberty to me all of a sudden.
Yeah. And to that note, if you never experienced community-driven esports, grassroots esports as it's known, it's a little different. It's a bit slower. It's a bit more disorganized as we try to get that guy from buying a sandwich back into the studio. It's game time. He forgot. It's be patient with this. The filler, downtime. These are words that are used frequently when we talk about grassroots, and it's going to be a little bit of a rough process. Home Story Cups were some of the most popular grassroots dudes sitting on a couch in a house.
They still do them.
Yeah.
They still freaking do them. They're some of the best Hearthstone tournaments you can watch. They're fantastic. And I believe they still do them for StarCraft. I just haven't watched them in a while. But anyways, I'm stoked for all of this. We've got links to all of this in the show notes. If you've never checked out the show notes before, you head on over to amove.tv/ITN, and it's a link to our Google Docs, the actual Google Docs that we use to make the show. They're always linked at the bottom of the episode post. So for this one, look for episode 252.